We're back, people, and today we're breaking down film on Isaiah Johnson, Miami Dolphins corner, and he was, UDFA out of Syracuse, number 37, and I thought he was another guy who was just a big surprise performance, has some elite physical tools. He's not the most fluid athlete, but he's got great size and length and physicality, and he, played pretty good in coverage, pretty sticky, looked a little smoother out there than expected. I still think, that fluidity will hold him back from ever being a top tier player. But if he's developed correctly, I think he shows some nice instincts. I know there's some things he can do on special teams, and he'll get down and get involved in the running game. Like, those tools are really, really nice. He has multiple plays being made versus the run in this one. And then, didn't allow much separation in coverage. He can play in press man. And, even one of his best plays came when, he's playing in some off-man zone type coverages. So that was nice to see. I thought, he played with a pretty, disciplined style, which is nice, and he was just getting involved. Didn't give up too much separation, almost gave that touchdown at the end, but this is a really good play. We'll break this down. Here he is isolated on island, playing as, a deep third corner, which definitely kind of fits his skill set. I would say, here in his pedal, he looks pretty smooth. If you go back and watch some of his Syracuse film, he really would struggle to get in and out of transition, so this was already an improvement compared to that. So I like when seeing players improve in those areas that they struggle in. Still, you think that will hold them back, but there's technical things you can do to get out of these things quicker. I think he's got good balance, and then he breaks out of it pretty quickly for his size at least, and then has those length tools. He's amazing at the catch point to finish because of how super long he is. Even this ball is thrown very, very high where the receiver really doesn't even have a chance, and Johnson's arms are still right there if the ball was in the hands of a receiver to make a play, because he's got those insane size, and he's not one of those guys that just has size and doesn't use it. He was getting physical in press, he was getting off blocks, and then he was hitting people in the run game. And I know there was reports that have camped of him doing some cool things on special teams. Here he is in press, gets opened up. I think he was doing a good job anticipating route breaks too when he was in these low field shoulder positions, being in a good spot right there. Kind of opened up the gate this time, got in a little bit of a trail spot, and then got his eyes on the hips. If you look at his eyes here, brings his eyes to the hips, starts to see him sink, and then sinks with it. So that's a pretty nice rep responding. Here he is, another one. Basically on the outside, one-on-one. Seeing that they, isolated him here. In the place he did get isolated, he looked like, smooth, quick feet. Was able to open up his hips once the receiver committed. And he's going to be tough to beat on that physical plane, because he is more of a linear athlete, and then guys that are this long, very tough to complete the ball down the field on. And he just does a good job staying, stride for stride in phase with the receiver. Lots of reps to like from Isaiah Johnson. He was one of the bigger surprises for me in this game, because I really did not like his college film. So seeing this improvement is already a nice sign. So he's another, I think him and Storm Duck potentially fighting for one of those practice squad spots. They could keep both too, because you can keep players from the same position on the practice squad if you want to. But it seems like they're kind of fighting as the UDFAs after the main group of players that we got on the roster. He gets downhill. I would say he has the physical tools advantage. Duck probably has the athletic advantage, and I would say a little more instincts. But Isaiah Johnson, you kind of want to try to develop a guy with that skill set. He'll get down, involved in the running game, played press, use the length to your advantage. Here he's in showing press at the top. Receivers trying to sell he's running a route. It's a run play, but you can see him use that length. Then he identifies run, boom, sheds him, gets downhill, throws his body into the pile there too. Love seeing that stuff. Another play versus the run. This one's just another very impressive rep. Really hard to block if you're a receiver. He's gonna shed you, get downhill, and make that tackle. He's gonna fill. He's gonna get involved. Those are really, really nice plays. And then I like a lot of the times when he was in these press coverage, I like it wasn't him just firing off the ball. Usually these long physical, sometimes if they don't get hands on, they can really struggle. So it's nice to see him where he doesn't need to necessarily get hands on. He can just stay patient. He can mirror and match you and still stay in a good spot. And then, he played upfield shoulder here, and he's still reading the hips. The receiver feels the route break, didn't get hands on, in a good spot to take that away. Those are nice signs, because I saw him also use his hands. So we know he can use his hands, and he has the physical tools to really, maximize that stuff. But then he doesn't also need to in those situations. He was staying sticky in coverage pretty much throughout the day, which was a good sign for the UDFA in multiple different spots. isolated one-on-one, them trying to, get these receivers better looks, and he's just staying patient. He's not falling for any of, the show right here, the foot fire, the really, quick movement with the hands, and then once he commits, opens up, Johnson there. The receiver, like, Johnson might hold a little bit, but the receiver really hard pushes first, and you're taught when, like, the receiver pushes, you pull, so he, pulls a little bit, but to me, that's good coverage, and, like, the receiver really tries to hit him with a throw by. A lot of DBs, maybe not as strong and powerful, will get thrown out of the way, but Johnson's able to use that power and length to stay in a good spot. Doesn't give up any separation. Love seeing that type of thing from Johnson at the bottom of the screen. And he was pretty much doing it the whole way. The same receiver tried to do the exact same thing to him. Number 83 hit him with a throw by. Doesn't even do anything this time. Like, really didn't move him at all. And Johnson did not need to hold as much this time, so he anticipated it. So that's just, him, like, responding. Very, very good stuff. Very similar plays. And I would say this was, like, the only time, like, this wasn't a completion. It was almost a touchdown. This was, like, on the 4th down. At least, contested it. Made it a tough play. It was a good throw. Almost a really good finish. Let him out of bounds. But Johnson, at least with this tight coverage, made the throw and catch very difficult, and it just barely ended up not being completed. It was one, you're going to lose sometimes, but that's the route where, he still gets the win. It was just a very close one, but you sometimes can't beat a perfect catch, perfect throw, and it just was slightly off that time. That's why you want to be contesting these plays, and I think Isaiah Johnson did a pretty good job throughout. Definitely a UDFA to keep an eye on. I think the UDFA class has done a good job. The Dolphins have a history of doing a good job with UDFA DB specifically. So we'll see if any of these guys turn into one. I don't expect you guys to make the initial roster because Dolphins are already kind of struggling with the DB room, cutting people down that they didn't want to. So the UDFAs probably don't make that roster unless there's a couple injuries that happen. But I see a potential practice squad for a couple of these guys, and I think Isaiah Johnson is one that you might develop because he probably has the best physical tools of the bunch with his length. His length is like really, really, really like high percentile up there. So if you guys are to make sure that comes in, and one more thing before I forget, Isaiah Johnson, really, I kind of mentioned a little bit earlier, but coming out of Syracuse, like I did not see much to really work with other than those physical tools. Like he looked lost at times. He looked really, really stiff in coverage. Like really only had like one specific skill set to either play as like a flat corner, and then maybe went on a vertical plane. But even then, like, he got beat in those scenarios. So just seeing that improvement, like, that big of an improvement, like, because you've heard some things in camp, but then in this game, you're still playing against NFL-level players. Like, in college, you're still not playing against guys that good. Usually, at least, at Syracuse, you're probably not playing against too many of the top guys over and over, game after game. So that was nice to see, like, that he came out and, like, clearly had a technical improvement, looked a little more smoother in coverage, and then still, like, actually utilize those physical tools to his advantage. So clearly the coaching, I think that's a big sign for the coaching, is a lot of these young guys, a lot of these UDFAs are looking much, much better than expected. So now if you guys want to make sure that comment, subscribe,